Welcome to Madison City Channel's Know Your Candidates interviews, co-sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Dane County. I'm your interviewer, Marilyn Townsend, and I would like to introduce Jay Brower, running for Dane County Supervisor in District 13. Welcome, Mr. Brower. As we begin, I'd like you to give an opening statement as to the educational, vocational, and civic experience you have, which qualifies you to run for this office, and why you are running for the Dane County Board.
Thank you. So I come to this election as the incumbent in District 13. And during that course of time, I've had an opportunity to participate on the board and a variety of its functions. And so the direct experience of being in the role is the first factor I would point to. In addition to that, I also serve in my professional work as a labor union organizer. So I have an opportunity to work with workers throughout the county and the state on key issues that affect working families, things like what makes for a good job, pay, benefits, and also seeing the struggle that is a result of not having access to good jobs or the absence of good jobs in communities. So I know the struggles that people face on a whole range of economic fronts. Before I served in this role, I was a university professor, and I have a PhD in communication. So that brings with it a lot of experience working with students and also a lot of experience thinking through effective public engagement strategies and the types of things that are important to the supervisor role in general.
What do you view as the most significant budget issues facing the board, and how would you propose addressing them?
Yeah, so the board definitely has some key budget issues. Most recently in the news has been the Dane County jail project, which came in over budget and is the result of a multi-year, decade plus process related to coming up with a reasonable solution. So managing the next budget cycle in light of the additional funds required is a key issue. I would also say, as someone who sits on the Health and Human Needs Standing Committee of the board, and which provides oversight for the Department of Human Services, there is a lot of programming, and it's the largest county department by budget that is important to our community. Services like for people who are experiencing houselessness, substance abuse issues, and we need to figure out how we can continue to fund and increase funding for those programs, because we know that that's what leads to a great place to live like Dane County, where we take care of our neighbors.
What do you see as the next right steps for the county to take in addressing mental illness and substance use abuse disorders to divert people from the criminal justice system?
So I'd say that there are three components. One is to take further action on the completion of the crisis triage center, which has been a project in the works for a period of time now that's facing some regulatory hurdles. So we need to figure out how to get past those to establish that center as a major opportunity to divert people who are experiencing mental health crises and addiction out of the jail system. We also need to increase funding for housing. There are so many ways in which our neighbors find themselves in the criminal justice system as a result of not having stable housing. And I would also say, as one example, I'm on the opioid settlement subcommittee, which is identifying ways to distribute the proceeds of settlements from opioid manufacturers and distributors to serve people suffering from substance abuse in the community. And one of the key elements of that subcommittee is the inclusion of voices from people with lived experience. I think that the truth flows from the ground up often, and so we need to find more opportunities to make that happen in these areas.
How would you evaluate the county's current efforts to address homelessness? And are there any additional steps you believe the county should take to address this issue?
One of the things that I feel that we are fortunate is to live in a county where we have dedicated public servants who are focused on this issue. And I would say that the efforts that have been undertaken are generally good. It is also a problem that is complex and multifaceted and doesn't have one individual answer. Instead, we're looking at root cause issues related to ensuring people have a place in the economy, addressing substance abuse, creating more affordable housing, and also increasing funding for supportive housing options to ensure that once people find housing that they can maintain it in a stable fashion. And again, there are, multiple root cause factors that lead people to experience houselessness, but I also know that our dedicated staff are at the county and human needs are working on it, or human services as one example. We were talking about creative ways to facilitate car camping for people who live in their cars, but in unstable and problematic environments. And so to create spaces where it might not be the perfect solution of providing someone a house, but at least engaging in some harm reduction to the people who find themselves in those circumstances, to create a safe place for them to park their vehicles.
Concerns continue about noise abatement related to the presence of the F-35 fighter jets and PFAS pollution at the airport. What would you seek to do about these concerns if reelected?
So, and I've already had an opportunity to address these issues in front of the board. And at the end of December, our final board meeting, we had under debate the joint use agreement between the county and the Air Force. And a point I raised in my remarks is the need to repair community trust, or the trust between the community and the Air National Guard. And one of the ways that I see as an opportunity to improve that is in reaching an understanding, a detailed understanding related to PFAS abatement as a result of the use of any firefighting foams, and have that spelled out clearly, and it remains a point of contention in front of the board. So I would say one thing that I would seek to do is find opportunities to engage the Air National Guard around especially the noise abatement issue. From a community relations perspective, I am not an expert in the physics of sound, how it's measured, how it's experienced, but I know that there are people in our community who are, and so would want to look for opportunities to understand in a detailed fashion the problem and really encourage Air Guard leadership to engage the community in a full and complete way to feel like can be a trust rebuilt. In terms of PFAS abatement, I think we need to look for opportunities to speed up the procurement of non-PFAS firefighting foams at the airport, and ensure that any existing pollution as a result of Air National Guard operations will be cleaned up by the Air National Guard.
What else, if anything, should Dane County be doing to address health disparities?
I had an opportunity to fund a budget resolution that provided additional funding to a program that is operating in Dane County right now called Save Our Babies. And that Save Our Babies money program is specifically designed to address health disparities among pregnant Black women in the community, or pregnant people in the community of color, recognizing that the health disparities in birth outcomes are pretty stark and need addressing through all kinds of an array of healthcare support. So prenatal, post-birth care, and taking other steps to ensure that the health systems in the community are providing useful care to, and especially to populations who are experiencing a disparate amount of negative health outcomes. So that's as one example. Another example was another budget item that I was privileged to sponsor, which is the funding for additional public health nurses who provide support in the community to pregnant people post-birth who otherwise don't have access to healthcare, and ensuring that the disparities that exist are addressed by providing care where it's otherwise missing.
Please tell us about other priorities for the residents of your district that we have not yet addressed and how you would propose addressing them.
I know that in my district, climate action is an important issue. There are many people in my community who in my district who rightfully have identified that there is a need to pursue faster decarbonization, to follow through on other sort of infrastructure activities like increasing heat and frost insulation to save on heating and cooling costs. And we're lucky that our county, again, is a leader in this area. We have a wonderful Department of Energy and Climate Change that's doing so much on this issue. But I think through additional board engagement and community engagement, we can speed up these efforts and increase community support. And then also find ways to ensure that that work that is in carbon intensive industries can transition in a fair and just way so that the jobs that are in carbon intensive industries can transition to green alternatives or green versions, or at least green themselves in a meaningful way to address the climate crisis.
What would you like to say as we wrap up to the viewing audience as we complete this interview?
I would say, so it has been a privilege to serve District 13 during my time on the board. The best part of my job is the opportunity to engage with my constituents. And I've had an opportunity to spend a lot of time knocking on doors, talking to people on their front porches, in their living rooms. And so I look forward to more opportunities to do that. I appreciate the trust that my constituents have placed in me in representing them. And I feel very lucky to live in an area of the county that is engaged and motivated around the pursuit of progressive political ideals that lead to a better community, make Dane County an even better place to live. And so I appreciate their ongoing trust and look forward to serving them for another term.
I want to thank Jade Brower for speaking with us and thank the viewing audience for taking the time to know your candidates. I want to remind everyone that primary election day is Tuesday, February 20th. The general election is Tuesday, April 2nd. Every election is important. Please vote. On behalf of Madison City Channel and the League of Women Voters of Dane County, thank you for joining us.